So for the second part of this video, we are going to be telling you a story. Two stories about two different people. We got Dan the man and Sarai. Okay? So we got Dan and Sarai. So Dan grew up in, let's call it mid-America. His family, as well as himself now, were in the mid to low income bracket. Dan lived in a mining town, coal mining, and he knows the value of earning a dollar, right? I mean, this guy has worked hard every single day of his life. Politically, let's say that he's politically conservative. Things like that make sense to him, which is awesome. And his religious background, he's a traditional Christian, okay? Okay, so these are just a few points of Dan here, okay? His life is obviously way more in-depth than that. But either way, if you asked Dan if he would support a tax cut for the wealthy, he probably would say no. Now, if you asked Dan, this hard worker from mid to low income, steady job, if he felt his tax dollars should back a food assistance program, what we call EBT, okay? If you asked him about food assistance, if he should pay for that, let's say in this case, Dan says no. It's not necessary. He lived a poor life. He never had a handout. So if Dan says no to food assistance, that it's something that's not necessary, you can agree with him or disagree with him, but when you find out about Dan's life, you kind of understand why he would say that. Regardless of how you feel, he feels that it's absolutely unnecessary in his life. Okay? And now we have Sarai. Okay? So Sarai's dad was born in North Africa. He has little to no religious beliefs or understandings. Sarai's dad was born very poor. Okay? He was even kind of like a porter or an assistant to a rich family in North Africa. But the good about that was that this family fell in love with him and sponsored him. Sarai's dad ended up going to medical school even and became passionate about fighting the spread of diseases. Now, Sarai's mom was born in India, and she's a Buddhist. Okay? Sarai's mom was born in a very wealthy family and went to university as well. She became a scientist focused on providing clean water. So the two of them met in Central Africa, fell in love working together in fighting malaria. During their job together, they gained the attention of the United States government and were offered contracts as well as a line into citizenship with the United States through a job with the Center for Disease Control. Everything worked perfectly with them. They got married. They had Sarai in the United States. And Sarai was basically born with a silver spoon. Now, were you to ask Sarai if she would support a tax cut for the rich? This is kind of an interesting background. She might say yes because she's in that higher income bracket, okay? Or she might say no because who knows what? Maybe she's met a bunch of rich people that don't deserve it. If you were to ask Sarai about, let's say, her stance on immigration, she might fully support immigration. Or maybe she doesn't because her parents had to work super hard in order to get that. But either one of those answers you would understand because of her background. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is that even though Dad and Mom worked for the Center for Disease Control, every single summer they spent 3 months in Africa working together for free to help clean the water and fight malaria and things like that in Africa. So she was raised with altruism. Okay? If you were to ask Sarai if all people, regardless of their income or job status, if all people should have health care, she would probably most definitely say yes, right? And it makes sense. You don't have to agree with Sarai for this, but it makes sense if you take the time to understand her story. She's more than just this political stance. And Dan is more than this political stance. And welcome to part 3 of our video. So we're going to start off with the same cartoon as we had before, but instead the number is going to look like that. This guy says 25, and this one over here says 52. And what we learned with Dan and Sarai, you can tell how the different things that happen in your life can really change your perspective. So it makes sense. But a lot of times in my life, I've noticed this, that the person who says 25 is actually over here. Now let's check their life math. So person number 1 and person number 2, this guy's life is straight tens to make it simple, which adds up to 52. Person number 2 is a 9, 11, and a 12, and an 8, plus a 6 and a 6, which equals 25? It doesn't make sense, right? Now, both of these guys are under the same umbrella. They relatively have the same religious beliefs. They grew up in the same town. They have the same education and income. They're both cisgendered, heterosexual, Caucasian males. Now, why is it that this person, when looking at this, sees a 52 and this person sees a 25? Now, the term that I'm going to coin for this is nurtured prejudice. There might be a different term for it. If you know it, let me know. Comment below. So this person right here could be the son of Pat or Terry or Chris or Sam from the other part of the video. And even though they're looking at the same world as this person over here, they start screaming out 25 because this is what they've been told. This is what's been downloaded into them, that the world is 25 and nothing else matters. And you ask them and you say, well, why are you a 25? And you say, it's because I hate those people over there. Well, why do you hate those people over there? Because they don't pray the same way as I do. Okay, well, let's check your life experiences. When have they personally told you that you need to pray like them? Well, maybe they haven't. Well, then why do you hate them? Bottom line is, they're not a 25. And a different example. Why are you a 25? Well, because I hate those people over there. Well, why do you hate them? Because their definition of love is different than my definition of love. Now, when in your life have they ever told you that the way that you love is incorrect? Well, they haven't. Bottom line is, they're not a 25. Now, if you have had experiences where you've been oppressed, if you have had experiences where you've been marginalized or put down personally in your life, then you're going to be standing over here, right? You're going to be standing on this side, and we get it. We understand that. We're sympathetic. We're empathetic to that. We all have hard things that happen to us. But if your life doesn't actually add up to what you are told to say, you aren't living your true life. You're living somebody else's. You aren't experiencing. You're being influenced. So, is this you? Does your life match up with the prejudices that you have? And if they do, like I said, we understand. But if not, it just doesn't make sense to me. You are more than your upbringing. You are more than your politics. You are more than your religion. You are more than your culture. You are a complicated path of integers that makes you wholly unique. Go out and experience the world. Start with your neighbor. Go, say hi, figure out what their name is, where they're from, what job they had their whole lives, what makes them tick. Go to the grocery store and meet that lady there and figure out her numbers here. Because this is where the magic lies. This is what makes us human, not this number down here. Right? And the more that we focus on these things, the less this matters. And I would be so bold as to say, it doesn't exist. So go out and discover each other and fight for the commonalities. So let's say at some point when you're talking to somebody that you've been a 7 and you know at some point they were a 6 and they were 8, it doesn't match up, but force those connections. Find those commonalities even if they don't exist. And what's going to happen? What's going to happen if you do this? You're going to create a world that's more sympathetic, that's more compassionate, that's more understanding, that's more empathetic, that's more patient, that's more caring. And that's a world that I want to live in. The more that you do this, you're going to find that you're not going to lose your identity. As you mix with people and discover people, you are not going to become any less of an individual. We are not different shades of paint being poured into a common vat. In actuality, we are little tiny, perfect tiles. And when we align with those tiles next to us, we can create a masterpiece. So go out, experience each other, love without fear. Learn each other, experience this world, experience yourself. Be kind to one another. And I tell you that you are needed. You are loved, and you're a blessing. Thank you.